That psalm that was just read this morning, thank you very much, is a report of the children of Israel in Babylonian captivity. They've been taken from their homeland that was familiar to them, where their families were raised, where the memories were of good times, good food, and prosperity, and where the temple was, where they usually worshiped. And here they were, down by the rivers of Babylon, away from home, and those who have enslaved them and tormented them and brought them to a land away from their home is saying to them, sing us one of Zion's songs. Sing the Lord's song. Instead, they remembered where they had come from. And instead of singing, they wept. They hung their harps on the willow trees. That translation says poplars, but I want to go back to the King James. They hung their harps on the willow trees. Willow trees always grow well, by water, by rivers. They hung their harps on the willow trees and wept. As Alfred Lord Tennyson once wrote, sorrow's crown of sorrow is remembering happier times. And so they remembered happier times. And they refused to sing. And they wept, saying, how can we sing the Lord's songs in this strange land? Their response to those who captured them, who enslaved them, and who tormented them is understandable. There they were, filled with the sadness of being away from home, in captivity, and not feeling like singing. And when you're without a song, you're without hope. As the popular song of my generation went, without a song, the day would never end. Without a song, the road would never bend. When things go wrong, a man ain't got a friend without a song. Or as more contemporary to most of you who are so much younger than I, you will remember another song that said, the day that the music dies. Sad day. What is the name of that song?
American Pie.
Yeah. Y'all know that song? The day when the music dies. You act like you don't know what I'm talking about. Well, it is sad when you can't sing. But there was another people taken from their homelands, stripped of every vestige of dignity, herded and loaded on slave ships like cattle, deprived of their names and their heritage and their language and their homeland, brought to a country, auctioned off as commodities, forced to work from sunup to sundown. My mother used to say from kin to kin. From the time you can see to the time you can't see. From kin to kin. From sunup to sundown with no pay. No wonder somebody heard them say, Lord, how come we here? And yet those people sang and refused to lose hope. Against the backdrop of cruel slavery and a peculiarly heinous racism and an idolatrous chauvinism, these transplanted Africans began in slavery to develop a spiritual response to their suffering human condition. And so when Western Christianity was introduced to them, they knew already the God of whom the Magnolia missionaries were talking about. For they had known that God in the African forest. They had known that God in the sign of the winds in Africa. And so the African American spirituals were born on the American soil as black people tried to find a response to the human condition of suffering that they found themselves. Benjamin Mays, one of Martin Luther King's mentors and the president of Morehouse College some years ago, used to call these songs the songs of the soul and the soil. W.B. Du Bois, the first black recipient of a PhD in this country, no less than from Harvard, referred to these songs as the siftings of centuries, telling of exile and trouble, of strife and hiding. I'm quoting him. They wrote towards some unseen power and sighed for rest in the end. But through all the sorrow songs, there breathes a hope for faith in the ultimate justice of things. End of Du Bois' quote. Our culture is more interesting and diverse. Our lives are made fuller, and our worship has become richer because these transplanted Africans refuse to hang their harps on the willow tree. They sang anyhow. They sang of life and death, of suffering and sorrow, of love and judgment, of grace and hope, and justice and mercy. And because they sang the Lord's songs in this strange land, it became the first original music born in America. The first original music coming from enslaved Africans with deep roots in Africa, and yet these spirituals became the foundation of American music. They became the foundations of the blues and jazz and gospel songs and the songs of Charles Albert Tinley. And we can hear their echoes even into everyday commercials that you hear on television today. The roots, though, of African American spirituals born when a people refused not to sing, who refused to hang their harps on the willow trees and sang anyhow.